In this video, I'm going to be breaking down 3 industry-leading design roles and what's involved for each. The 3 I'm going to be tackling today are user experience, so UX, user interface, UI, and product design. As a designer, I often get asked, hey Dara, what type of design do you actually do? And I always have this internal crisis moments to say, oh no, how do I actually describe what my job is? And the reason being is that there are a lot of different interpretations of what design actually is to lots of different types of people. In this video, I'm hoping to clear up all of that and break down what the different roles and responsibilities are of each. Hey, I'm Dara M, a product designer looking to share my creative skills with those outside of the creative field. Something to remember about all of these roles is that one is rarely seen without the other, and they have a lot of crossover. This is often where the confusion can lie, or someone has misinterpreted one for another. So someone might say the UX, which is the pieces all being put together, and mix it up with the UI, which is the kind of the finished kind of design, the colored in piece. That's where misinterpretation can happen. The first thing we're going to be tackling today is user experience, or UX. This is a focus on an interaction between the user and the service or product that they're interacting with to make sure that the user gets the best possible experience. The goal of UX is to reduce friction to make sure that the job that the user wants to get done is done in the simplest, most efficient way. It ensures that the user's needs are actually met. UX is usually around a human-centric approach. There are many methods at a designer's disposal to ensure that the right UX is put in place. UX research can be broken down into a number of different quantitative and qualitative ways. So quantitative is a large gathering of information, qualitative is more specific kind of pieces. Some examples of quantitative research would include surveys, focus groups, and some qualitative methods include guerrilla testing, so on-the-spot testing, prototyping with one-to-one sessions with a user, or a customer or another stakeholder, and my favorite, workshops. The intention of doing a lot of UX research up front is to reduce problems further down the line where things tend to get a lot more expensive to change. So if you put this into reality, say you have created a really poor website because you didn't do a lot of research at the beginning. Well, when you launch that website and you put in all the software development and all the marketing that's gone behind it and you find out that nobody wants to use it, it is significantly more expensive to make that change later on than it is at the beginning when it's just a couple of pages or a couple of designs mocked up and tested really early on. How a UX designer then fits into this is that they will then look to map out this whole journey. They will look at the very beginning and they will go through a discovery phase of finding out all the best ways of doing things and finding the right answers. And this can be done through user flows, wireframes, or lo-fi prototypes. Good practice from the designer would be to get stakeholders included as early as possible. Not just the product team or the marketing team, but everybody, including the engineers, software developers, the heads of departments. The reason for this is that it will reduce friction when the designer hands over designs and everybody has been included in the process. So, if I'm to build an example around all of this, let's say that we have launched a footwear website. So, someone goes on and they want to buy a new pair of shoes. What the UX will do will dictate where everything sits on the page. So we've clicked on our shoe and we've gone, this is the shoe that we like. A UX designer will then find out what the right user needs are for this stage. What is the most important thing that the user is trying to do? They will look to find what's the most important thing. Is it finding the right size? Is it changing the color? Is it adding to basket? Is it a mix of all 3? Is there more stuff to it? Is there reviews? Foot size, is it a broad shoe? For example, like typical brands such as Nike and Adidas have different types of fit, and it's making sure that's brought up front to the user. Let's chat about user interface design, or UI as it's better known. This is the look and feel of a product or service that the user actually is presented with. It's focused purely on the interaction points around typography, the colors, imagery, color schemes, branding, and then a little more detail into accessibility and then responsiveness. So how a website might look on a desktop and a mobile. This is to ensure that there's a seamless experience between the two. When people are describing the UX, this is sometimes what they mean about how it all kind of fits together, but UI is purely on how something looks and the interaction points for the user. The goal of UI is to visually guide a user to their end goal, working with a UX journey map. Some of the techniques that are used or employed by a designer are grids, spacings, so the space in between things and making sure that they all are even and make sense, color schemes, branding, and building out reusable components in a really efficient team so that someone doesn't have to come in and design 50 of the same button. They'll design it once and apply it in multiple different locations. If you think of a mobile screen, and down the bottom on any application you'll see an icon and potentially a name. So the house icon for the home, that will be designed once and applied to every screen depending if it's active or inactive. So active if you've clicked on it, inactive if you're on a different screen, like settings. Let's jump back into our example, the footwear website. The UI designer would look to make sure that the colors make sense, that everything is laid out correctly and neatly so that everything is spaced and appropriately, and to make sure that the right type of buttons are used so that you're not getting a blast of different types of colors or different sizes or anything. If there's a buy now or add to cart button, that would probably be the biggest button of all, as that is the primary objective of the user to buy the pair of shoes that they're looking at. However, a smaller button might be, or one that uses icons would be the size counter. So you could have up your size, or it could be a drop down table, and it's up to the UI designer to decide which is the best way to put that together on a page. Hopefully, if all of this is done correctly, the user won't even notice, as it is seen as an expectation in this day and age. If there's something that needs more importance that was found during the UX, such as that add to cart button, there will be a bigger emphasis on that. That will be the bigger, brighter color, or the primary used color, or the main used color with the brand. The final role we're going to be chatting about is product design. A product designer is someone who sits in the middle of the UX and the UI, who tends to do both, but has a bigger emphasis on understanding the business goals as well as the user goals. This is my role in a business. Product designers don't tend to specialize in either UX or UI, but have a more balanced approach for either. They can have a preference, of course, but typically there is the expectation that there is a balance between the two. There has been a market trend recently pushing for more product designers, as these are seen as more rounded, more appropriate types of designers and thinkers for businesses. The reason being is that they do have that balance, and the business sees that they are weighing up the actual business needs, which is most important to the business, as well as the user, which is most important to the customer. So the product designer acts as this bridge between the two, and that is a very desirable role at the moment in the industry. A typical product designer will come with experience or will look to include data analytics in their role and a significant amount of user feedback. Now, this is heavily in the UX world, but can be applied across. So once something has been released, they will then have another look at that and they will look to make changes, so incremental changes. So our website has been published and we find that the button is in the wrong place and nobody's clicking on it. We'll look at the analytics for that. We'll check it around. We'll move it across, say, to the other side of the page. And we find in 2 weeks that there's been a 50% increase in people clicking on that button. That is a role that the product designer will do. What's an example of weighing up the business needs and the user needs? If we were to take our use case, so our footwear website, say there is a special offer going on that the business is aware of. They know there's a seasonal promotion coming up, like Christmas or Valentine's Day, or maybe it's back to school special, so people need to get kids their shoes. While the product designer is focusing on the UX and the UI, they do need to incorporate this special offer that may come through and find out the best location for this on the page or on the website or on the experience overall. So on the page where the user is currently selecting their size, they're looking to add to cart, there might be a promo code that can be included, or 20% off, or whatever it could be. And the product designer will try and find out where that will fit on the page. Obviously this is UI and UX working together. They can be done by either role, but the product designer is responsible for finding out where it will sit on the page, knowing that it will make the biggest impact on the business, or have the biggest impact on the business as well as the user, because it's a win-win. The sale is made for the business and the user gets the discount. And there you have it, a breakdown of the 3 different types of designer roles there are. The UX designer is focused on building the best possible experience for the user. The UI designer is focused on the best possible interaction for the user. And the product designer is focused on both of these situations and weighing them up against the business needs. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button below and subscribe to my channel. If you'd like to see more of my videos, I've got one around generating 100 ideas in just 10 minutes and why expert interviews are the perfect place for solving problems. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.